In this example, we'll look at different inventory costing methods, specifically first in, first out, or FIFO, and weighted average. Now, the reason why we have these methods is because inventory often isn't acquired by an entity for the same price at each point in acquisition. And what we're talking about here is the same inventory item. So obviously, if you're buying different things, they will have different prices. But in this case, we have an inventory item, there were 4 different acquisition points across the period. They purchased different numbers of units from 200 to 210 to 175 to 200 across the year for a total of 785 units. And the cost per unit varied from $44 a unit to $48 a unit. So in total, they have 785 units on hand or available to sell. And those units cost them in total $35,850. So if the information you have is that during the year that they sold 685 units, what isn't clear is what cost per unit should you assign? Should they use some sort of average? Should they use the first units in, first units out? Should it be some sort of other method? So without any guidance, it wouldn't be clear what you should do. What the standards do have, though, what the rules state, is that there are a couple of different methods that can be used. One is first in, first out, and one is weighted average. So we're going to look at each of these in turn, how you do them, and then what the bottom line impact is. So first in, first out assumes the first units that we sold are the first units we bought. So if we turn back up to the table here, these units bought in month 1, we assume that those are the first units sold. Once we've sold all through those 200, the next group of 210, we sell through them, then 175, and then through the last tranche of 200, until we get to whatever point that we've sold them all. Now, this makes a lot of sense if you're selling, say, perishable goods, because it's unlikely the goods that you purchase in month 1, you would still have on hand by month 12. So you would be selling these units first, and so on, and so on, and so on. So to do this, we assume the first 200 units, and what I'll put in down the bottom here is just a check to show how many units that we've got left to sell. Price per unit is a price per unit here, and the cost is $8,800. We have the next 210 units, and we still have 275 left. We use the $45 a unit, equals $9,450. So we've sold the first 410 units from those from month 1 and month 3. We still have 275 to sell. 175 of that comes from month 7. And we still have 100 units left to sell, and that all comes from that, not the 200. So we put in 100 here, and that means that we have sold all the units. And the total is $31,250. So what we've done is we've sold progressively through each unit until we get to a point where we have sold all of them. The inventory expense is what we calculated up here, the $31,250, and the closing inventory is the difference between what we purchased, so what we had on hand, or what we had, sorry, it wouldn't have been on hand at any one point in time, but what we had available to sell during the year, and our inventory expense. And so what we end up is, as a closing balance of inventory, is $4,600. Weighted average does it a little bit differently. So instead of assuming that you sell through the first group coming in and then progressively through the remaining purchases, weighted average takes the total inventory that you have and takes the average cost per unit. So in this case, we have the 4 purchases in month 1, month 3, month 7, month 12 for 785 units at a total cost of $35,850. To get the 4567, we simply divide the 35,850 by 785 units. And so the average purchase price for the units that we have on hand is $45.67. There may be some rounding in here and you may get a slightly different number if you do this strictly to 2 decimal places, but it's an immaterial difference. The units that we sell are 685. We don't have to sell down through the tranches. You can simply just put in 685. The price per unit is a price per unit, and the cost is just the cost of those units. So just simply the units times that 45.67 price per unit. The check is 0 because we have sold all 685 units. Inventory expense is the 31,283, and the closing inventory is the difference between what we purchased and what we took as the expense. Gives you $4,567, which is slightly different from what we had before. If we come back to FIFO, it was $4,600. So, it's $33 difference, which is pretty immaterial in this case, but it is still different. For those that are interested in both the worksheet composition and the journal entries, for the purchase, and I'm just making it simple here, I'm just doing it in one big aggregate purchase. We obviously had it in 4 different groups, but just for ease of use here, I'll combine it. So cash goes down by 35850 and inventory goes up by 35850. Both the assets denoted by the A within the brackets, and we have everything balancing. We've got one asset going down, one asset going up. Just for completeness, I've included for the selling of the inventory, I've also included the actual revenue from the sales, and I've made up an arbitrary $100 a unit sale price, just so you can see how this would work in completeness. So the sale from the revenue, assuming we sold for cash, and we sold 685 units at $100 a unit, would be $68,500, and the sales revenue $68,500. I've included the revenues and expenses straight into equity just because it allows for the positives and negatives to work a little bit easier. But obviously sales revenue is an income item and cost of goods sold is an expense item, which has a negative effect on equity. When it comes down to sales and the cost of goods sold effect, this is actually recognizing the expense for the inventory that we purchase or now have sold. We have inventory going down 31250, so I'm using the FIFO calculation in this one, and we have a cost of goods sold expense of 31250, which has a negative effect on equity. So what we see here is if we were to add up this side, I'll just do it down here actually, we end up with 37,250 and we end up with 37,250. An important other point here is what you'll notice at the time of purchase of inventory, there is no profit and loss effect at all. The profit and loss effect only happens when the inventory sale happens. You have a revenue effect from obviously the cash, or in this case cash could be an account receivable taking place, and a expense item happening because you have a reduction in assets. You have a reduction in that inventory, and that is a reduction in the owner's equity in the business. For those that are interested in the journal entries, inventory goes up at time of purchase, 35850. Inventory is an asset, so it gets debited. Cash is an asset going out, so it is reducing, which means it is credited. Everything balances. At the time of sale, cash is coming up, and sales revenue is increasing, and sales revenue being an equity item, equity increases with a credit, so we have a 68,500 credit. Cost of goods sold is an expense item, and expenses increase with a debit, so we have 31250, so cost of goods sold increases 31250, and inventory, which is an asset, as it's sold, it reduces, and an asset reduces with a credit, so 31250. And that would be the set of journal entries for what we did up here.